I just watched a video by Adam Ragusea where he was talking about the Autolyse method. Now, Autolyse is a way of making bread without kneading your dough, essentially. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that later. But I wanted to see if we could use the Autolyse to make
Seitan.
Now, I'm not talking about Satan the devil, I'm talking about Seitan, the wheat gluten, glutinous meat, the stuff that we make meat out of by using pure protein gluten from wheat. So to test this method, we're gonna be making 2 dough balls using all-purpose flour. Now, to make seitan out of dough balls, we're gonna be using the washed flour method, which again, I'll be talking a little bit more about later. But for right now, let's make our 2 dough balls. We're gonna be using 3 cups of flour to 1 cup of water in each dough ball. In 1 dough ball, we're going to mix the flour and water together until it's relatively mixed. Then we're just going to cover it and let it sit for 30 minutes. In our second dough ball, we're going to mix the flour and water together, and then we're going to knead for 10 minutes. So what exactly is Autolyse? Autolyse was first discovered in 1974 by Professor Raymond Calvel. He was a French master baker. During some experiments, he realized that by allowing dough to rest, that the dough formed better bonds between the starch, gluten, and water. Now, the word Autolyse means dough breaking itself. My video isn't very specifically about the Autolyse method, so it's about testing Autolyse and see if it works with making gluten and making seitan, the meat product. If you're interested in learning more about the Autolyse method and just Autolyse in general and its history, I would definitely recommend checking out Adam's video as he goes into depth, and I don't think anybody can explain things better than he does. So at this point, our dough has rested, Autolyse has happened. Let's see if it works. Okay, so we now have 1 kneaded dough ball, and you can see this knead, it should pass the window pane test. It does really nicely. We have a nice little window pane there. Our Autolyse ball is not nice and smooth, but we should be able to quickly pick it up and just super quickly knead it together. And you can almost immediately feel how it's going smooth and stretchy. So I'm just gonna go ahead really quick and just kind of knead and fold, not even for a second, and you can almost immediately see that we are no longer able to just pull our dough off and pull it apart and rip it like we were able to beforehand, and we get a window pane. You know, probably the best method to determine whether or not you have a good kneaded dough ball. So now we have our 2 dough balls. This one, which was kneaded for, 12 minutes, tons of work, my arm's tired. This one that kneaded for about 30 seconds, not a whole lot of work, my arm feels great. So our Autolyse ball is going in the clear bowl, and it weighs 685 grams. I'm gonna write that down. I keep saying Autolyse, but it's Autolyse. And our manually kneaded method is 699 grams. So we got pretty close when we were making them. Now I'm weighing these because I want to see if there's a difference in the percentage of gluten that's formed in each dough ball. Once we wash away the starches and a lot of the fibers, all that's going to be remaining is the gluten. We should have the same amount of gluten from each method is my hope. And if that's true, then you're going to be able to make seitan without actually spending the time kneading. It's going to be all resting time, which is going to be great. I mean, really, because that's my least favorite part. So now at this point, all we're gonna do is just cover both of these with cold water, and we're gonna let them rest for about 45 minutes. It's been 45 minutes, so these have rested in the water. Now at this point, we're going to wash out all of the starches and fibers, and what we should be left with is just pure gluten, these little strings right here. The water's gonna get super milky. Now you can save this water. You can use the water to make starch pancakes, which can be used for lots of things like making bacon. People use it to make vegan cheeses. It's essentially just whole wheat starch. We're not gonna do that today. We are gonna save some of the water, but for the most part, we're gonna really focus on just washing this flour. So this is the washed flour method. Once we get these both washed and we get them through the water, we're just gonna throw them into a colander and let them drip in the colander for about 20 minutes. That will help kind of combine the gluten back together again and help us give us a good starting point for our gluten meat. So these have had time to rest. They look great. They've settled down. Now you can see some dark spots and light spots in the dough. That's just a little bit of starch left. Now I'm gonna weigh these. I'm just curious. I tried to wash them as close as I could get them to being, fully washed. But I do wanna see if either method produced more gluten per dough ball than the other method. This is the normal kneaded dough ball, not the one where it just rested. And we ended up with 247 grams of gluten. And now this is the one where we barely kneaded it. It was just resting, and we ended up with 254 grams of gluten. Really, the way this works out is the hand kneaded dough ball weighed more than the Autolyse dough ball originally. But now we have more gluten out of the Autolyse dough ball than we do out of the hand dough ball. So that would lead you to believe that the Autolyse actually produced more gluten, like a stronger gluten, than the hand kneading. But the problem is, because this is a washed flour method to where there is still some starches remaining, it's hard to tell, does this one weigh a little bit more because of the amount of starches that are remaining? Or does this one weigh a little less because I might have washed out some of the starches? So I'm gonna kind of say that it's inconclusive. But it's only inconclusive because it's so close. It's so close. Either way, the way this works out is this ball sat and we have almost the exact same amount of gluten as the ball that we really worked hard to do. So spending that time kneading is kind of pointless. Now, I really want to see if we end up with a better texture out of the Autolyse than we do out of the hand kneaded one. We're going to form these into a rope and then braid them. That's going to help with a more meat-like texture. Once we have them formed into our braid, we're then going to throw them into a pan and fry them all the way around until they're both golden brown. And then we're gonna add just a vegetable broth, a very basic vegetable broth. Once we have that vegetable broth, we're just gonna cover them up and allow them to simmer for about 45 minutes. And then we should have ourselves some very basic washed flour seitan. Okay, so these have simmered. Now we put a toothpick in the one that was Autolyse, and the one that was just hand kneaded is just plain how it is. Now I will say, looking at these, they really do look very similar. They both look like similar pieces of seitan. Now I'm gonna let these rest for just a few minutes before I cut them up, but all we're gonna do is we're gonna cut them up. I'm not gonna tell Monica which one's which or what even the differences is, and then we're gonna do just a blind taste test with Monica and see if there's actually a difference between the two. As of right now, the no kneading method is creating a very similar seitan as the kneaded method. So I think my whole point is holding true, where you don't even need to knead. And just look at the way these are cutting up. They look amazing. Both of them look very good. They've rested. They feel very dense. It feels like a piece of meat. They're juicy. Oh my gosh. I mean, I think this really worked out. Baby, we have 2 plates of seitan, whatever you want to call it. We're just going to be testing. I want to know if you can taste the difference between the two.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool, I'm excited.
That's the big thing. Just can we taste between the two? So
Okay.
let's grab a piece. I mean, this is juicy seitan.
Very good.
Very good. Has the texture of chicken. Mm-hmm. You can feel like it's very loose chicken. Do you have any describers for it?
No, it's like a juicy chicken.
Yeah, super
like
juicy.
It's not necessarily like loose in the terms that it's like just falling apart. Like it's just juicy and, a good cut of chicken, I guess.
Yeah, very, very juicy.
Chicken.
Okay, now let's dive into this one.
Okay. I don't know that I can taste much of a difference. This one had a little bit more flavor to me.
It does have a little bit more flavor, yeah. Which it shouldn't, because they both were cooked the same exact
way.
Yeah. In the same bowl, so.
it really didn't have that much of a difference. I can kind of guess that this piece that I had might have been a slightly more juicier, but I don't know if it's just the piece or the cut I had, because it's really, I'm just guessing, it's not that much of a difference. I'm gonna try it again.
But the texture-wise, though.
Oh, it tastes the same pretty much to me. Let me cut this. Yeah, everything's the same. This one's like slightly more firm. That's all.
Yeah, this one's a little bit better.
This one's a little better, a little bit more juicy. It's a little bit easier to bite into, but very similar.
This one was not kneaded.
Okay.
No kneading.
Oh my God.
This one was.
Wow, that's crazy.
This one used Autolyse. Autolyse?
I wouldn't say lice.
Autolyse, I don't know what it is. And this one didn't. This one used the regular kneading method.
Okay.
So, the whole point of this video, just like I told you to stop pressing tofu, stop kneading your dough. You don't need to do it. It needs itself.
Yeah, this is great, this one.
That's it, baby. This is
Cool, I'm gonna have some more.
Yeah. I mean, I can like mix this up into like a stir fry or something.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Very good.
Okay, this is awesome. I'm so excited about how that came out. Unbelievable.